She cracked the window, hoping the breeze would cool her. She sniffed the air, surprised when she caught the scent of something familiar, a musky smell more tantalizing than fresh-baked chocolate brownies. She sniffed again, the smell tickling her senses before disappearing. Strange. What was that? And how could she get more of it? She vigorously rolled down the window, stuck her head out, and swore when she could no longer smell that delicious scent. Whimpering her sorrow, she hung out of the truck, panting while her heart raced and her libido cried more, more, more. She gasped when she was jerked back by a strong hand, barking and snapping at Van to let her go. The fine lines framing his eyes deepened. "What the hell?" Her chest heaved like she'd been running a marathon, and for a moment, she forgot where she was or what she'd been doing. Her head was so fogged with memories of that heavenly scent. She released a slow breath as the truck came to a stop. Everyone was looking at her as if she'd grown a second head. "Well?" Tor demanded, his voice dropping to that deep protector baritone that rattled her insides. How could she answer when she couldn't define what had happened to her? One second she'd been mind-numbingly bored, and the next, her heart was racing so fast she wanted to jump out of her skin. She crossed one knee over the other, an uncomfortable ache settling between her legs. And that's when it hit her. That scent belonged to male wolves. Please, ancients, no. Her fated mates couldn't be living in Texas's sweaty armpit, smack in the middle of a civil war. Annie felt as if she was walking in a dream when her brother helped her out of the truck. She frowned at the fresh, jagged scar on his temple, knowing she should be furious with the wolf who'd put it there, but she was too dazed to think about much else other than that heavenly smell. She'd heard her mate's scent would draw her to them, but she'd had no idea they would smell so damn good and make her so freaking horny. When Roy slammed the door, she noticed for the first time the huge dent on the driver's side, like a rhino had headbutted it. Had he been in an accident? Why hadn't he told her? "Come on," Roy said, tugging her toward the long, red-brick ranch house. She walked like she had a stick wedged up her ass, trying hard to quell the desire that pounded like a drum between her legs. She had no idea who the hell these wolves were, but she sure hoped they presented themselves fast, and that they hastened the mating ceremony. As much as she didn't want to live in Texas, her sexual desires eclipsed all her misgivings. "Annie, you okay?" Tor whispered as he flanked her other side, walking with her up the gravel path toward the young family of shifters. She plastered on a smile when the woman waved at her. I don't think so." "You scented your mates?" he asked. She grimaced. "Unfortunately." "They probably scented you, too," he continued. "Let's hope they're not foes to the coyote chasers." "Yeah." Annie swallowed a lump of apprehension. She'd been so distracted by her libido, she hadn't even thought of that. The coyote chasers were the pack that had basically usurped the old chieftain. She and her uncles would also be staying with the coyote chasers during their visit. "Why didn't you tell me you found your mates?" Roy hissed. "I did," she snapped. "Why else do shifters try to crawl out of moving trucks with their tongues hanging out?" Before he could answer her, a broad-shouldered man with a mop of dark hair and skin the hue of rich Texas soil, whom Annie assumed to be the coyote chaser chieftain, called to them from the porch. "Welcome, Chieftain Thunderfoot and family." He descended the porch steps, looking pained, as if he'd returned home from war. Behind him were his 3 brothers, all similar in complexion, with tight lines framing their eyes. Even the Gamma had a haggard look. She wondered if Amara had been mistaken when she'd told Annie her aunt and uncles were in their 30s and 40s. They looked to be in their 50s. Their 4 sons, all with the same coloring as their fathers, stood behind them, chins held high and far too controlled for children. The oldest couldn't have been more than 13. Tor surged ahead of Annie and met the large alpha halfway up the porch steps. "Chieftain Coyote Chaser." Annie noted how the Coyote Chaser alpha stood 1 step below Tor, a sign of deference to the older chieftain. They shook hands, clapping each other's back.